Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. I'd like to welcome Erica DiArcangelo, who is an author. The book is called A Story About Pizza. So let's get to know Erica and have a great conversation. Erica, tell us a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So I have worked and owned a marketing company. I've actually worked in the marketing industry for about 20 years, and I've owned a marketing agency since 2013. And a few years ago, I lived in Tampa, Florida, but my dad had heart surgery, and I decided to move back home and help my parents. And my grandfather had opened a pizzeria in 1960. So my dad was a school superintendent and he had retired and, he ran into some medical problems and he had just, was recovering. And so I went home and I thought, my dad, he really needs to get moving, get busy on something right now because he was, I think when you have a major surgery, it can sometimes be taxing on you both mentally and physically. So I said, hey, Dad, why don't we go, into the shop. We had actually our cousin managing it. She had worked there since she was 14. I said, hey, let's go back in. Let's work on it together. I'll do your marketing, something we can do together. My dad said, I don't believe in marketing. I said, well, let me help you for free. It would give us some time to spend some time together. And that's where kind of the journey began, was just me going into the shop with my dad and filming content and hearing stories and looking at old pictures. And I became very inspired to write this book.
When my grandfather was alive, he used to tell some great stories, especially like when he was in World War II. And I kept saying, I need to get a tape recorder or something and record this. And I just let time slip away and I missed out on it. I probably could have written a good book, but when all that happened, was that kind of going through your mind?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just felt like as my dad was telling me more about my grandfather and my grandparents and how my grandfather came here from Abruzzo, Italy, and he had nothing and he worked in the coal mines and he talked to me about how the people in the coal mines treated the different immigrants and the workers. And I actually sat down, I interviewed my parents and I recorded it. And, my dad helped me collaborate on a lot of the book. And we just put the story down. Not to mention my dad has been traveling to Abruzzo, Italy pretty much every year. We still have family there. And he has like a lot of pride in going there. And a lot of the recipes in the restaurant are from our family, were passed down. It's farm to table. It's very like a very authentic place. And he's very proud of it.
Did you find out other things that you didn't realize was going on in your family?
Oh, so many things. So many different stories about, my great grandfather, so many things about the coal mines. Mostly that the funny thing is the story is based in a little town called Wimber, Pennsylvania. Now, this is where the Berwyn White coal mines were. And this is where a ton of immigrants, they came over to New York, to Ellis Island, and then they went where there was work and there were work in the mines. And on the east end of town were all the Italians. And on the west end of town, you had the Polish, the Irish, the Slovakians. And the people who were running the coal mines wouldn't let the two groups get together and talk because at the time there was no union. So there was nothing protecting these workers. And they were treated so poorly, and they didn't want these groups of people to, blend and communicate about what was going on.
Mhm. And I'm assuming this brought you closer to your heritage altogether.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I grew up in a predominantly Italian family, and we had a lot of traditions and a lot of things that we did. But when I was, I think it was 21, I had finished college and I moved away to another state, and I had lived away for, maybe 16 years or 17 years before I had moved back. So, yeah, going back after all that time and really seeing everything. And my grandfather, he was very poor. Like he kept everything. So when he passed away, there were so many different pictures and, relics from the coal mines. And just to be able to look at all those things, like they still have the original cash register there.
Mhm. My grandparents, of course, went through the Great Depression and they learned how to conserve and, they used stuff over that, we probably just throw away every day. And my wife, she fusses at me because I'll, keep a tub or something from butter or Cool Whip, and then reuse it later. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
And did did you find that maybe the recipes over there are different than the way they make things here, or is it pretty similar?
So what I did for each chapter of the book, like each chapter talks about like something that was made during that chapter. And the recipes are taken from my family. So each chapter has a recipe in it. And these are recipes that were passed down from, my great great grandparents to my great grandparents to, my grandparents. And I remember being young and there was always food. I mean, we grew up in a pizzeria.
Right.
So, but my grandparents always had, food on the stove. My grandfather always he had sausage and peppers, he used to dry out peppers all the time. He used to make sausage and peppers all the time. And in the building that they had rental units and they rented right next door a lady named Pearl. And she was this old Italian lady and she was always brewing coffee and she was always making Italian cookies like pizzelle cookies, butter cookies. So, we would go from the pizza place upstairs to the coffee and the cookies over to my grandparents for the pasta, the meatballs, the, sausage and peppers. And we're a family that we love food and we like to eat.
Do you have a favorite?
I have a lot of favorites. I mean, for the pizza, I love the traditional pizza. It's a rectangular pizza. It's 15 slices. It's a really delicious pizza. We also have a thin round pizza called a Mike's Pie because my youngest brother, so there's 5 kids in my family. My youngest brother, Mike, he wouldn't eat a square pizza. I don't know why, didn't like it. So my mom started making him a thin round pizza, which he would eat. So we actually started serving that in the restaurant. We called it a Mike's Pie. And so we do a Mike's Pie with hot peppers and pepperoni baked on, and it's a really good pizza.
Tell me a little bit more about the book itself.
Absolutely. So the book starts out in Abruzzo, Italy, where my grandfather immigrated from, and it talks about how he and his 3 brothers and his parents came over to America, to Ellis Island. And then from there, where he actually started working in the coal mines, and he was pulled out of school as an adolescent in his formative years, and he started working in the mines really young. And then it goes through this whole, era of him working in the mines and how the miners are treated and the story of his relationships with his father and his mother and his 3 brothers. And then from there, when, the mine shut down, he was at that time, he was married and he was about to have his first child. And he was, being Italian, one of the most important things is taking care of your family. And he was, how do I take care of my family? So at that time, Berwyn White owned most, if not all, the buildings in Wimber. So he ended up buying a building and he and my grandmother opened a market. And it was just like a local market. And then they decided to start serving pizza because his dream was to always to make pizza. And from that point, it kind of grew. And here we are. I think it's about 65 years this summer that the pizzeria has been open.
Whenever you serve food, it seems like, I don't know, there's a bonding. Do you find a bonding of different people when they come and eat your food?
Oh, 100%. I mean, growing up as a child with my family, we would have Christmas Eve and we would shut down the shop on Christmas Eve and we invited the entire family. My grandmother had, I think, 13 siblings. My grandfather had 4 siblings or 3 siblings besides himself, plus, the aunts, uncles, the cousins. We would have 80 people Christmas Eve and we would do the 7 fishes. So every year that was very much a bonding experience. Every Sunday after church, my grandmother would make a feast of, meatballs and chicken cutlets and pasta, and we'd all eat together. And really, even now, when people come into the restaurant, my father's there and he talks to people, and there's been people that have been coming there for, generations. And he'll sit down even with the new people and he'll tell them the story of how the shop started. And when you walk in there, the 1905 building is restored and there's pictures on the wall of the family members. And you really can see the history there. So it's really an experience, not just going in and, just going into Pizza Hut or something. It's, you're really going into a place where there's no other place like it.
My wife and I, we moved back to the Houston area. We were living up around Austin.
Hmm.
Our parents, they're getting up in age and their health hasn't been great. Otherwise, I'd still be up there. But there was a bakery, and it was right down the road from the house we were living in up there. When we make trips up that way, or we know somebody that's going up around there, we're like, please stop by. Do you ever have people like that just maybe they've moved off and they make a special trip just for the food?
Oh, all the time. I mean, we have people in the town that, a lot of people come home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and even sometimes during the summer. And usually like Thanksgiving week, there's a line out the door. Like Christmas break, line out the door. You can't get a table. Even now, I mean, we have a TikTok account. I think I started about 5 or 6 years ago, and our TikTok account went viral. So we have a lot of new people coming in who just saw us on TikTok that want to come in and try it, and then they end up coming in all the time.
Have y'all gotten any interest like from major magazines or news or anything?
With the book, we've done a bunch of, news interviews and we've had a lot of publications. Every so often the news will do a story on the pizza place, but really it's been such a loyal and loving customer base of people. And like really just to, I try to keep up with the comments, but sometimes on TikTok it's hard because we have some videos that have 64 million views and they have thousands of comments. But yeah, when you look at the videos and you look at the comments, it's like really cool to see like people share their history, like where they're from, where their grandparents are from. They want to talk about pizza and it's a whole culture.
Is there anything in the book that, I mean, outside of your family history and all that people are going to find that they didn't know?
I think there's a couple of different things. I mean, the book has a really clear message, and that's for people to not give up on their dreams.
Mm.
You take an individual who really came from nothing, who had no resources, and had a dream to create something for his family. And that dream has now lived on 65 years. I mean, well past, my grandfather passed away in 1999.
Mm.
So well past, but this was his dream. So that's one of the things. And then also, nothing good really comes without some type of a barrier. Nothing good comes easy.
This is true. This is true. Did you ever have aspirations of writing a book before all this happened?
I did, and I didn't. I started my marketing agency a long time ago, I think back in 2013. At the time, I was a single mom, and I wanted to really make sure that I could provide for my daughter and I. So I started my agency out very small, hired people on. Here we are, 2020, 24, and I've had an agency for a long time. I think needed to take a step back, like right, around the time of COVID or
Mm.
before. And, I think as your parents get older and things start to change and your priorities really start to change. And for me, family was always one of the most important things to me. So really, I wanted to tell a story about my family because I love my family so much and also to create something positive to make people happy, something uplifting.
Yeah, you're probably like me. You're sick of hearing about COVID and all that stuff, but did y'all take kind of a hit during that time?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we probably lost about 50% of our client base.
Mm.
But, what we had to do at that time was really look at, okay, like there were certain companies that we were working for that they ended up having to close, unfortunately, during that time.
Mm.
And then there were other companies that really increased during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to really change what we were doing. But it was also, it was a very scary and uncertain time, I think, for a lot of people.
This must have really instilled some great values in your child.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's an interesting person.
Does
Yeah, she's very driven.
does she have plans of maybe getting into the family business?
It's funny because She is very gifted at cooking. I mean, she was born into a family who loves to bake and loves to cook. So she was making like 3-layer wedding cakes when she was like 8 and 9 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and we were sort of like, okay. And she always wanted to do that, but she's now in college and she wants to study marketing, funny enough. So I was like, you can take over the you can take over the enterprise here, I guess.
Right. Well, let's mention, can you give the address and all that good stuff for the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, where you can find the easiest place to find everything on the book and even the pizza place is a storyaboutpizza.com. But if you go to anything that says Darcs Pizza, Darcs Pizza, I mean, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, website, that's where you can find everything. The pizza place is located in Wimber, Pennsylvania, right on Graham Avenue, which is the main street in Wimber. And, you ask anyone where it is, probably there, they'll be able to tell you it's been there for, 65 years.
Well, I've never been to Pennsylvania. Maybe I just need to make a trip just to go there.
Oh, it's worth it. If you show up, though, we'll buy you a pizza.
Oh, sweet. That's even better reason to visit.
Yep.
Is it on Amazon, you said?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you search a story about pizza, you can buy it wherever books are sold, Amazon, Goodreads, Google Books. It's everywhere.
Well, I am going to put all that information uh, in the description, so it'd make it easy for everybody to find you. But do you have any other messages you'd like to give before we end the show?
Just like to thank you for having me on the show. I really enjoy talking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, really. And it's nice to see, family working together and keeping something alive. I think we need to keep some traditions in this country.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
Erica, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network